Hi everyone, today we got a little bit of a gap down and consolidation at support. 591.09 continues to be the major support level here. Closed above it pretty strongly over the last 2 days, but now we're testing it once again at the close of the session. Momentum slightly bearish, RSI slightly bearish. Is this the topping formation that we've been looking for between this 597 and 591 level? Let's take a quick look at the charts and see if the data supports it. Do me a quick favor and like and subscribe and watch the video till the end to help out the channel, and let's get started. So Elon said a lot of things in news today, and he said he's going to definitely put out Robotaxis on the streets of Austin in June. He also said XAI is going to continue to buy GPUs, and he said he's going to lead Tesla for at least the next 5 years. So a lot of information there. He also said he's not going to spend nearly as much on elections going forward, which is really a ton of data around Tesla and Elon. Of course, we can't really invest in XAI right now, but I do believe it will be a public company at some point. Tesla is also building its own AI with all of those chips that they continue to buy, so buying those as fast as possible. But the big thing here is Robotaxis. Are we going to get to that full self-driving, unsupervised in Austin, and how will it go? Will we be successful there? And they do have to start getting a little bit quicker, starting to compete a little bit with Alphabet's Waymo, which has 250,000 paid trips per week. So there is definitely some risk around there. They said they will geofence robotaxis into the Austin area to start, depending on how that goes, and then they will expand from there depending on how the rules look. Of course, they rely on the camera system, which has been long criticized. Will they be better than Waymo's LiDAR system? That still remains to be seen, but seems like pretty soon we're going to see if this happens or not. Moving over to fear and greed, we finished here at a 69. It says a 69 yesterday, but I think this was a little bit of a decline. You can see this is rolling down here, still extreme fear on momentum, and then strength still trickling higher, still in greed. Breadth at those record levels in extreme greed. Put call ratio at a very low level, starting to pick up a little bit of strength there. Interesting. Continuing to watch this. Obviously, you can kind of chop in this zone for a while, but little bit of a turn up, and then you can see VIX flat to slightly bullish there over the last day or two, and then safe haven demand and junk bonds both in extreme greed, and really very little movement here across the board today. Moving over to the economic calendar, basically nothing for today, really nothing for tomorrow, just 20-year bond auction, crude inventories. And then for the Thursday, this is really the biggest one of the week. You got some soft data here, some existing home sales, interesting. Fed balance sheet, want to see what they've been doing. This has either flattened or gone up over the last couple of weeks. Continuing to watch that one. And then Friday, just new home sales. That is it. Moving over to the charts, looking at the S&Ps here, you can see down day about 1/3%. Momentum continues to fade off of that overbought condition. 591 continues to be the powerful support, continues to hold that level. If we close below it, that might be the time where we start to see this shift at least to somewhat of a pullback. It's been a massive recovery with basically no pullbacks in the short term, and then you can see it here on the daily. Big rally yesterday, gap down, consolidation, fell a little bit. Got below the 21, got below the 9, still sitting right there at the 55. If those structures break, you got the 144 there, below that 585.91 level. So maybe this is the range we end up in tomorrow. If these start to break to these lower levels, 578.87 is my next support. Again, I don't necessarily think this is going to break immediately, and even if we do pull back, I don't necessarily believe that we'll get a change in structure. But this is just super extended. We hit overbought conditions, momentum's fading, everything says this should pull back at least a little bit. Moving over to the SPY hourly chart here on the Tasty charts, you can see this is still consolidation, still bullish conditions. We're still above that 590.14 trailing stop. We did test it, did find support, retested that 55 EMA in there as well at 591. Ended up closing above all of those. So structurally, again, not quite broken yet. And then daily chart, still very much bullish, still right at that upper ATR band. Maybe we need a little bit more pullback in time, allow these to kind of catch up. And then we can see a little bit more continuation. For now, still bullish structure. And then looking at that weekly chart, we did dip below that trailing stop here on the weekly. This is what we've been watching very closely. That trailing stop, 594.85, we did get above it and close above it on the Monday. And now we're back below it here on the Tuesday. If we close below this 2 weeks in a row right at it, that is going to be very concerning. So this is what we're watching most closely, in my opinion. Moving over to the NASDAQ, same trading range as yesterday as well, 509 up to that 523. We did end up slightly negative, about 1/3% in this zone, still at that highly traded zone, still overbought, still momentum fading. Just seems like this is a topping pattern here. Huge volume coming through at these levels. Is this a lower high setup? If it is, watch out below. This could go much, much lower if this ends up being a broader bearish structure with this low established here with the high, lower high. That would lead you to believe that there is going to be a lower low somewhere in here, which I absolutely do believe is a possibility. Absolutely not ruling out a much lower low. Just like we said yesterday, Jamie Dimon said that markets are not pricing in tariffs, not pricing in geopolitical risk appropriately. And if we do realize that's the case, this is going to roll pretty aggressive. Right now, you have a consolidation of short-term EMAs on the 1-hour chart right in here around this 520 level. This is about as high as I thought it was going to go based on my trade, based on my covered call. And we are still hanging out here. Support still 509.74, resistance still 523.24. Moving over to the Tasty charts here on the hourly, you can see we're right at that upper ATR band. The 8 EMA still hanging in there, 513.10. So again, still bullish conditions based on this daily chart. And then looking at the 4-hour, I just wanted to highlight the fact that we are right on top of this 8 EMA, sideways consolidation, middle of the range. This is pulled back at this point. We are in the middle of that range. If we're going to get a resumption, it needs to happen soon. Otherwise, you have to expect that this is going to pull back a little bit, generate some demand somewhere in this kind of 487 to kind of 493 area. I could see buyers absolutely hanging out in here at this consolidation high. And then maybe we get a bit of a resumption up to those previous highs or higher. But in the short term, this is a consolidation and we are waiting for some direction. Moving over to the Russell and the Dow, you can see the Russell was slightly positive, up about 11 cents, but it's dipping here a little after hours, not a lot, but a little. So keeping an eye on that one, still above the 208.88 level. And then the Dow, same thing, testing 426.20. It was down a little bit on the day, but holding at support. Seems like that's the thesis for today. Testing support, holding support, but not going any higher, at least for now. Moving over to Apple and Microsoft, same thing here. Apple down just about 1%, Microsoft down about 0.15. Again, still at support for Microsoft. 453.30 is that support zone, still there. Momentum continues to fade, continues to be super overbought. Apple, on the other hand, did actually dip below the level 207.14. Got the 21 EMA right there as well at 206.60. So we're still in the same zone of support, but again, high double top, looking for this to dip now. Think we're going to get at least a return to this level 193.96, but realistically this is probably going to go lower. Structurally, it just does not look very good. Moving over to Tesla and NVDA, both of these did about the same thing as everything else. Tesla up about 0.5%, did touch that level. You can see wicked to the level high was 354.99, right at the level 355.03. We're going to call that a touch. Missed it by about 3 pennies, at least off of my level. Probably just a level being at the wrong spot there. Got the touch, momentum fading RSI, fading off of overbought conditions. Still looks like consolidation. Didn't quite hit the trend line there. Looks like a big outside day reversal, so don't love that. And then NVIDIA inside these candles here continues to look like a zone of resistance, continues to show fading momentum, continues to be overbought. Moving over to staples and discretionaries, staples continues to be a massive rallier, up another 1/3% above the level 82.53, looking to push to that 83.43 level. And then you got discretionaries continues to reject off of resistance at this trend line, still held the level 215.06. That's the support, touched that level, found support, but momentum fading, RSI fading, still continuing to lose momentum in this zone of resistance. Structurally has not broken yet, but it seems to be losing that upwards momentum that we had for so long. Moving over to breadth, very little changes here either. Again, testing that 86.53 level, showing rejection off of these very high levels on 20-day, continues to show resistance. And then 50-day did go a little bit higher, finished basically unchanged, still right at the level 77.46. Did not quite get to that 83 level. Momentum continues to fade. RSI still overbought. Again, just slowly slowing to the upside. Moving over to the dollar. The dollar has been fading over the last 2 days, and it continues to do so at the open here for the Wednesday session. Is this going to continue to crater? You have this kind of bear flag setup. Big sell-off into the zone. Bear flag setup. Structurally, if this breaks here, you can kind of see it. right in there, and it does look like it broke below there just based off a quick draw of what this looks like. If it breaks below that 99.83 level, that's going to be very concerning. The dollar selling off too aggressively is not good for equities. Means a little bit of fear in the market around the US economy. And again, it's not been great. Does seem like it might continue here pretty soon. Moving over to bonds, TLT continues to gap down and show a little bit of bearishness. It was down about a third yesterday, about 0.75% here now. Continues to look not so great. I've been patient on the buying. I really like this zone, but at this point I think it might go to 82.60. So just going to be patient. That would be about another 3% lower. Look for some more opportunity in there. And then looking at J&K, pretty much unchanged. Seems like corporates are the better place to be, at least for now, until TLT starts to show a little bit of structure in terms of a basing formation. Right now, it still looks a little bearish. Moving over to the VIX. The VIX continues to hover in the same zone, generally unchanged, but that momentum continues to swing to the bull side. RSI basically flat. I do believe this is a basing formation on the VIX, which makes sense as markets have stalled at current levels. Is this going to swing up soon? I do believe so. Is it going to be this week? I think that still remains to be seen. Moving over to my accounts, I was down just a smidgen on the day. It says only about $10, but I think it was a little more than that, close to $100, maybe $150. Not sure why it was quite so much on that. Shouldn't have been quite so much, but either way, you can see the Qs generally flat. The call came in a lot, made money on that, covered all of the loss on the shares, and then I did take a position here on the IWM at 209 for 74 cents credit. That did sell a little bit after hours, but it did bounce a little bit, not too bad there. So we're basically right at the money going into tomorrow. The Russell seems to be holding up okay. I'm not really playing for an up move at this point, really just playing for a consolidation. Want to see it hold at the current level. Maybe we get some kind of continuation. The Russell did outperform on a relative basis today, so that's something to keep in mind. Otherwise, still neutral here on the Qs. Still plenty of credit to come in, and we are still basically at my max profit, even with the little bit of a fall that we saw after hours. Let me know down in the comment section what you think of Elon Musk's plan. Is it a good idea to continue to buy GPU chips? Are they going to get full self-driving going? And what happens to Tesla over the next 5 years? Let me know. Otherwise, like and subscribe. If you got any value out of this video, make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.